Welcome to the Mindful Minimalist Show. My name is Sarah. This podcast covers minimalism, mental health, and mindful living. I am a licensed teacher, an expert declutter, and a mental health warrior that's fighting the stigma. Today we are talking about homeschooling. So before I just start rambling on, why should you listen to me? Why should you believe anything I have to say about schooling your child? Well, I am a licensed educator. I'm actually licensed in 2 different states in the U.S. I have spent about 3 years in the public school system and 3 years as an independent contractor teaching English to children in China. I know tons of people who have been interested in my job, so I will link some information up here above and then in the description below, so you guys can go ahead and check that out if you're interested in what I do. On top of being an educator for a while now, I have also been researching tons of homeschool topics for my own child. He is 3 years old now, and technically we have been schooling him since birth because we follow mostly the unschooling approach, which is that there is no school, there's no classroom. You learn from life. Life is your classroom. So we have been following that approach since he was born, but I've also looked into many other philosophies such as the Montessori method, Waldorf, Reggio Emilia. So I've done quite a bit of research into this, and I'm not saying that I'm an expert by any means, but I am saying this is something that I am knowledgeable about and is my career. So I want to go ahead and start off by telling you guys I interviewed and surveyed several parents that have been homeschooling their children for a while now. And I wanted to know some of the mistakes that they made in the beginning, what advice they would give to new parents that are starting homeschooling. And the reason why I think this video is so important right now is because of the time that we're in. We are in a situation that none of us alive have ever experienced before. We are not able to leave our homes, or if we are, it's just for a brief moment. We're not able to go out and do all the fun things that we once were. We're not able to send our children to public school safely, in my opinion. Everyone has a different opinion, and that's perfectly okay. If you choose to send your child to school, I'm not judging you. I personally just don't believe that it is a safe enough choice right now for the current level that we're in the U.S. We're still in a pretty high threat right now. So the reason why I think this video is so important at this time is because you, probably the person listening to this or watching this, are considering homeschooling your child, or you've already decided to homeschool your child, but you don't know what on earth you're doing. I'm here for you, okay? You do not have to walk through this alone. I also have a lot of other videos about homeschooling, and I will link those as well for you guys, so don't feel like you have to figure this out on your own. We are here together. So let's go ahead and jump in with the first mistake. This is something that one of the parents said she thought was just something she did in the beginning, that she was just pushing and then finally realized, you know what, this isn't working. So this is what she said, that one of her biggest mistakes in the beginning was pushing my kid to do things that public school says they should at a certain age or grade. Every kid develops at a different rate, and you can hinder the joy in learning and even your joy in teaching by forcing them to do what they are not cognitively ready for. Round of applause for that, mama, because I cannot explain it any better than that. This is precisely what unschooling is all about. It is about following the child's lead. It's about doing what they are interested in doing, not what you as the teacher want to do or what the book says they're supposed to do. So it's all about following their lead, giving the child that autonomy to choose what they're interested in, and let them study that and let them go at their own pace too. So this is what we try to do with our own child in our home, is following his lead, following what he's interested in. I have probably said this in another video before, and I know I've told it tons of times to my friends and other people I've talked to about schooling. This is not, man, my diffuser just shut off. Not in any way to brag on myself, but whenever I was in school, public school as a child, and then I went to Christian school later on, I thought the schoolwork was really easy, and it was just something that came naturally to me. I've said I am the biggest nerd ever. I will 100% admit that myself, but it felt like a waste of my time. I thought, why am I sitting here doing this? This is so easy. And I was frustrated by that. I was bored. And there's nothing wrong with this, but the teachers would always have me go help other people who were struggling or go help students who were in special education and needed some assistance. And honestly, that's probably part of why I'm a teacher today, is because I had that experience so young. However, I don't think that's what education should be. I don't think my job as a student was to go teach someone else. Now, I understand there's benefit in helping others, but I don't think a student should be forced to sit in a classroom where they understand all of the concepts and then are being used as the teacher. To me, that's not what education is about. That is about memorization, figuring it out, and then being done and being forced to help the teacher do their job. And I understand why teachers would do that, because teachers need more hands. Myself, as a public school teacher, I would have my students do so many jobs for me because teachers are overwhelmed. They're so overwhelmed, and so that's why we end up with this situation as well. But long story short, I was bored to death in school, and so I remember that feeling of frustration of, like, I just want to be doing something more. I want to do something that I enjoy, that I'm learning from. And I think about subjects that I studied that I absolutely hated with a passion: math and science and history. Oh my word, those were horrible for me. Now, does that mean that I'm not educated? Does that mean that I can't have a high school diploma or a degree or a job? No, it doesn't. It means that I have my own focus. It means I have my interests and I can follow those. And I personally believe that we should allow children to have the same thing. And then about ageism. Now, this is a newer term, at least newer for most mainstream people to be using it and hearing it. I am also new to this term as well. And ageism is basically treating children differently than we would treat adults, or differently than we would want to be treated as adults. It is usually referring to a negative thing, just as sexism, racism. Ageism refers to treating children the same way that we are treated as adults, letting them make choices just like we do. So I think about me in college. I chose to study Spanish because that was my passion. That's what I love doing. What if I had been forced to take even more gen ed classes, even more science classes, even more history classes that I did not care about at all? It's just a waste of my time when I could be putting in all of that interest into the passion that I have and that I love. And I understand being well-rounded, but if you're not well-rounded by the time high school's over and the public education system has given you 12 years to well-round you, I'm sorry, but the system has failed. The system has failed. It is flawed. Now, I want to go ahead and move on to the next part, apart from the mistakes. I feel like I'm just beating you guys down with the negatives, but these are some issues that I think are really serious in our education system today that people just are not talking about. And that's what I want to do. I want to be that voice that tells people, this school system is not working. We need to make a change. And I'm not saying that I have the right answer or that my way is the right answer, but I see from firsthand experience as the student and as the teacher that this is not working. When it comes to homeschooling, you are able to erase all of that. You are able to say, you know what? I know my kid is interested in this, and encourage them to do it, or allow them to do it. Allow them to make that choice and not force whatever it is on them that they're not interested in. And I promise you they will grow and flourish more than you can even imagine. So let's go down to the advice that these moms gave us. So the first one I want to share is about a website that you need to go check out. It is for HSLDA. HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association. This has some resources for you about your state laws and how you need to go about homeschooling legally, and I believe they also offer some protection for homeschool families, so definitely check that out as well. So the next piece of advice says, never stop teaching and they will always be learning. Every question my girls ask, I answer, or we search for answers together. And I absolutely love that. And that shows them we need to be lifelong learners. That's something that I heard in the education program in college so much, as being a lifelong learner. But I feel like most teachers don't act like that. I feel like they act like, I'm the teacher, I know what's right, this is what we're going to do. So it's very refreshing for me to hear from this mom that if she doesn't know, she admits it. She will tell her girls, I don't know, and then go and look up that answer together. Another one says, do not put too much stress on yourself and do what works best for your family. Every child learns at their own pace and differently. Know there will be hard days and days you feel like you're failing them. I think those emotions are just part of the journey. Remember, not all learning has to come from a book. Completely agree. And I mean, the last line sums up exactly what we were just talking about. Learning does not have to come from a book. There are lots of different options out there for how you can homeschool. You can buy your own curriculum, you can buy books, you can buy whatever it is that you want to use. But again, knowledge is not in books. Knowledge comes from within, comes from what you have, what you know, and how you apply it into the world and what you take from the world. This is from one of my friends who is actually a Montessori teacher. She runs her own Montessori preschool, and so this is what she has to say. Definitely look into the Montessori method and teaching at the child's pace, depending on age. Putting more responsibility and control on older children. Setting up a learning environment is crucial, just as an office space is for working, a sacred space for learning. Making plans and goals together will support teamwork and lessen resentment towards each other over feeling forced to do X or Y. And I think that's really important, and that's why I think homeschooling has an advantage, because you don't have to force whatever the public school system is saying. You don't have to force whatever the teacher is saying. You can simply present what you find and what you know and believe, and let your children take from that. Let the child lead and guide that. If possible, let work be done all and any times of the day or evening, periods when a child is feeling more sensitive to learning. It doesn't have to be a set schedule, but if that's what works for your family, do that. It's definitely a dance, and you get better with time. Try to have and teach empathy for what the other is doing or wanting. So from another parent, it says here, use whatever they are interested in to teach them basics. Use everything you are doing with them as a teachable moment. Empty your kitchen cabinets out. Anything outdated or that you know you're not going to eat, put on a table in the yard with measuring cups, spoons, bowls, etc. If they ask, why is the sky blue? Cuddle up and look at YouTube videos that explain it. If there was something you loved in school, like field trips, science experiments, or math drills. By the way, who likes math drills? Oh my. If you like those things, do it with them. Your excitement for the subject will shine through. I let them count their own money, even if it holds up the line. We play store so they can make change. I think those are all great examples of unschooling, and this woman in particular calls hers fun schooling, which I think is so cute. That's our goal. School should be fun. School should be something that kids look forward to, should be something that they're excited for, and that they want to go to, that they love doing every day. And I do not think that is most of the American population of school children. So this next one says, I wouldn't get caught up in methods unless it helps you. Honestly, I found it a hindrance in the beginning. It was a way to compare myself with others or magnify the way I wish I was versus the way I am. However, it could help people to narrow down the crazy amount of curriculum options there are. And I think that's a great point. For us, we are a variety of things. I consider us partly unschooling, Montessori, Reggio Emilia, Waldorf, a little bit here and there, a little bit immersion because we do Spanish immersion in our home. So you don't have to choose one curriculum. You don't have to choose one method. The next one here says, relationship trumps learning. I love this because our relationship with our kids is so important. If something isn't working, change it. If everyone is getting too frustrated, take a break. Just make sure your relationship with your kid is intact when this is all over with. And remember to have fun and be a mom, not just their teacher. I love that. And I also don't even like using the word teacher for a homeschool parent. And this may not be a mom. We've been talking about moms all along. And I apologize to any homeschooling fathers out there. That's just something that I haven't come across very often where I live. So I have been addressing this to mothers, and I've been talking with mothers for this research, for this podcast. I really don't like using the term teacher, though, as the parent who is homeschooling or unschooling or just living life, because that makes it seem like your knowledge comes from the teacher. The teacher's going to tell you what to do. The teacher's the one you look to learn from. I just want to be a guide. Again, in the education system, I learned the phrase, you can be a sage on the stage or a guide on the side. Most teachers today in public schools are sages on stages. And that means they are the wise ones. They are the ones that possess the knowledge and the wisdom, and they are on their stage in front of the classroom ready to just fill those minds with knowledge. Except what? Those minds don't give a crap. They don't care. They don't care about what this lecturer has to say. So that's when we switch to being the guide on the side. I'm not here to push anything on my son. I'm not here to make his lesson plans for the day, though sometimes I will bring things out and encourage him and present it to him, but I don't force him. And so I want him to be the one taking that lead, him to be the one, and me just being there to guide him and assist him as he needs it. All right, so this last question that I asked has to do with the most frequent question. This is probably the most frequently asked question and the most annoying question homeschool parents get. And this is something that I knew was a joke long before I was even a homeschool parent. But go ahead, homeschool parents, say it with me. Socialization. But how will the children socialize? How will they learn how to act in public? And how will they learn to make friends and act like a normal person? I don't know, you put them around normal people? Like, what do you do with your kids when they're not in school? Do you just trap them in their room and don't let them talk to anyone? Like, socialization is life. If you take your kids to church, if you take them to the park or to the zoo or to a restaurant, to the to the supermarket, they are being around people. They are socializing. If they have friends, that is socialization. We have this stigma that has been put on homeschoolers that they are awkward, they're shy and quiet, and they just haven't really adapted to life very well. They just really aren't very social people. You know those kids. Well, that is completely false. That is not a true description of homeschooling children. And I know quite a few homeschoolers now who are very extroverted, outgoing people who love talking and socializing. So you cannot say that. So one person here says, socialization was a problem a long time ago. A parent may have to make more of an effort to get their kids out than a parent that sends their kids to public school. However, I think for most homeschool parents, socialization is a natural part of life, and they have no problems with this. The benefits of homeschooling is that you generally have more control over who they are socializing with, and it's usually with a wide range of ages, which is a bonus. And that's another really important factor in some non-traditional homeschooling methods like unschooling, Montessori, is you have multiple age ranges together. So my son is 3. I would have him maybe around a 10-year-old or even a 15-year-old. He doesn't have to be in his little preschool 3 to 4-year-old group. It doesn't work that way. And so in the real life, I'm around children. I'm around adults my age. I'm around senior citizens. We need to be exposed to that variety instead of just trapped with the people who are just like us. How are you going to learn if you don't have anyone to look up to who is more advanced than you, other than your one teacher who's up there trying to lecture everyone? All right. Let's see. I love also that it talks about you have control over who they socialize with. Some parents may not like this because they think, I just want them to be around everyone. I want it to be so diverse and whatever. And that's wonderful. I love that too. But I think that's actually one of the benefits. Depending on where you live. Where I live, it is a very, very highly populated area of white people. It is very white. And that's something that it saddens me because I would love to have more diversity where I live. But when you look at it statistically in classrooms in my area, the majority will be white. And the majority of them will probably also lean to one political party just from their parents. And so it's really hard to get the diversity that you may want. So homeschooling allows you that opportunity to seek out those people, seek out the places that you want your children to go and exactly who you want them to be with. For example, my son speaks Spanish, as I've covered in a previous video. And for me, I want him to socialize around other Spanish speakers, something he's not going to get in school unless he makes friends with some Hispanic people. But again, there are hardly any Hispanic people where I live. Let's go ahead and continue here. I've been around a lot of homeschool kids who are very socialized or, normal. And as for being shy, this woman put that she went to a public school and was shy her whole life. So that really shows you it doesn't matter where you go to school. It's not going to change your personality. It may change what you learn, and it may or it will change your viewpoint on education and how you feel about education. But education does not change who you are. I believe homeschooling, specifically unschooling, allows so much freedom for your children that they wouldn't have had in a public school. It gives them that time for creativity. They can spend 10 hours in a day if they wanted to making a poster or a video or playing with cars, whatever it may be. Or they may spend 10 minutes reading a book and then they're done for the day. It's completely up to them, and they have that freedom of time. They have the freedom of space. They can be in their own room. They can be spread out on the floor. They can be on the couch. They can be in bed. They have the freedom of comfort. They can stay in comfy clothes all day and not have to worry so much about fashion, fitting in, or, looking the same way as everyone else. One more thing I want to add on here about the personality and being socialized versus being awkward or whatever people say. Another example of how that is contradictory is my husband and I both went to public school. I clearly am a bit of an extrovert. My husband is the complete opposite. He is an introvert. He would rather not talk if he didn't have to, and I try to force him to. But we both went to public schooling. We both had similar education experiences, though we were very different in how we approached school. We both went to the same style of school, and we turned out very differently. And it's showing you that it doesn't have anything to do with where you are throughout the day. It's who you're with. And if you are a parent and I'm just assuming if you're here listening to this podcast, especially if you've made it this far, props to you. I'm assuming that you care about your children, you're playing an active role in their lives and seeking out what's best for them. So I know that you'll be taking them out into places, into the world where they can experience lots of other socialization and cultural norms. So I hope this podcast has been helpful for you all. I believe I have finally covered all of our topics today. I have been a bit wordy, but this is something that I am very passionate about. Education is a topic that's very dear to me, and it's something that has been a dream and a goal of mine since I was a young child. Before even high school, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. So this is something that I could talk on and on and on about. So I'm sure we'll have some more podcast videos coming soon. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like it and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I put out a new podcast or any other video. So with that, we will close the show, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.